het hebben over the dance and words. Hello, Ton. How are you? The dance of words, how language shapes our understanding and experience of dance. That is what it's going to be today. Are you ready for it?
Yes, of course, Sean. It's a beautiful theme to speak about. And welcome, listeners. And we can start, Sean.
Yes,
Our
of course, of course.
podcast.
Welcome. This is one of these episodes where we are just the two of us. Now, hope you guys think that's not a big problem. And once in a while, if you have followed us for now for a little bit, we will also have some guests. And sometimes that's about the same topic as we talk today. But today, Ton and I just talk about the topic of language and words in dance and how it influences education, learning, etc., etc. Ton, just take it away. What are your first thoughts when I said dance and the experience of words and language?
Okay, when I was younger, I
Mm-hmm,
didn't realize that words are connected with movements
mm-hmm,
because my first day at school, I learned the words and you learn the meaning, but there was no connection to movement actually. But now I realize when I'm older, when I say on, uh, in, over, if you would do that with your body over the table, under the table, then if you could imagine how your body would react, then I would learn much more faster the words. But this wasn't the case. And what you think, Sean?
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. For me, of course, try to approach it a little bit as a mental coach. I think that the quality of your thoughts is in direct relationship with the quality of your movement, right? The richer your language is around, and you do a lot of that work, Ton. The richer your language is around what you bodily wants to express. The the more you can actually discuss and choices you can make. So that's a little bit more
Mhm.
abstract approach of the same topic. I hope.
Yes. Actually, if you say a word like standing, and you would translate standing, the sound, because I understand the word standing,
Hmm.
standing, then my body could react on two words, on stand and ding. So I could make two, um, how you say, suddenly movements. I could do. And when I stand, you can do this on thousands of way. So we need a little bit more context and how to stand. But when somebody would say in German, not German, I understand, in Chinese standing, and I not know the sound, then probably I will or sit or I was already standing. Then, but I didn't understand the sound and the word, and I could not interpret it in a movement.
Yeah.
That sense, Sean?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense actually. That I think that's a very interesting thought because we use that very often, right? Like stay, maybe with the word standing, you could say stand up, which immediately sounds more like a command, and people
Yes.
in movement would react a little bit more sudden and direct. But that type of intonation, we only have that in the languages that we really understand well. For instance, you and I speak German, to some extent maybe French and definitely Dutch, so where we could do that. But if we have to do it Chinese, that's probably, if we already know the word stand, we probably can say it only in one way and hopefully they understand what we're saying. But we could
Mm.
not give it so much emotional value like stand up now instead of stand up.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, Sean.
that's
And
interesting. Mm-mm.
yes, absolutely. And
Mm-mm.
also, between dancers or persons, I not call them dancers. If you know the word standing, and I know the word standing, it will not say that we on the same way will stand,
Nope. No.
and
Definitely.
at the same moment will move. Somebody is from the perceiving slower, and he, they hear it but didn't listen well. Oh, I must stand. Oh,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
I didn't know. So if you not give context and the other one understands understand it immediately, that could be
Yep.
also an. So you had also an example in your lessons. You told me that one that you did some dynamic quality of one word, and you gave some examples, Sean. Maybe you can say this to the listeners too. This example.
Yeah, I'm not sure what example you specifically mean. You can tell me if you know what example I mean, but I have several of those
Yeah,
uses of word
take
when.
one.
Yeah.
Take.
So, for instance, when I say make yourself as tall as possible, right? Then
Mm,
people, first of all, they believe that they can make themselves taller,
mm,
which is a movement, but we can that later. And then I typically ask them after that, and now make yourself even taller. So that's a few layers in there. First of all, making yourself tall, you have only one length, but in people's perception, they do this, and as tall as possible. And then I say, make you even taller. Then I also
mm.
give them a mental image that they can still do more. So that's the use of
Yes.
language,
Yes.
purposely used for movement, but also expanding people's thinking in what they can and can do.
Yes. Don't know if the children are more clever in the United States, but I don't think it will be the same. But when I use the words bounce, rebound, swing, all qualities, ticking, strobing, if you not know the words, how the
Yeah,
body will do that.
you can't.
And actually, you can bounce with almost all the body parts. I have 10 in the jam, 10 body parts. With all, you can bounce or rebound. And but I did this. My children were between 10 and 15 years, and I gave this example. And if you would understand bounce or rebound, still the quality of that movement will be different by each student because you understand the bounce different. Somebody bounce fast, somebody bounce with the head, somebody bounce with the pelvis, and someone does a quite large or big movement, and the other one a quite small one. And there's a difference. So, and this is why you train on the floor with a trainer, not with a teacher, with a trainer. You train to get this more equal, the same. And yeah,
Understanding the same.
yes, the understanding of it, of the word first, but also in the body that it looks equal in the same tempo, in the same effort, or in the same muscle tonus or muscle tension for the listeners, if you not know what tonus is. And yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So a couple of things that we said here, if we use words, then it's first of all, do we have as teacher trainers with students the same meaning of the word? Remember we had that in Dutch where we talked about chair. If I say chair to you, but I don't explain in what chair we're talking about, then we might think we talk about the same chair, but I talk about, a nice lazy chair, and you talk maybe about a chair for your desk, and we have a completely different picture in mind. So that was an example that we use. So that's the same meaning. And then, of course, a harder topic is consistent use of the word for the same thing, which could also be very challenging. If you don't know the difference between bouncing and trembling, for instance, then you might use one time you use bouncing with your head, and the other time you use trembling, which is completely two different things. As long as we And then thirdly, which is the harder one, is the intonation of the word that we use. So that's so
Yes.
meaning,
This is
consistency,
yes,
intonation.
absolutely, Sean. And the word, when it's in your head,
Hmm.
you can go more extreme in the word, like bounce or bounce, or
Yeah.
not slower, bounce, bounce. So,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
bounce. Yes,
Accent. Yeah.
it depends how extreme you want to pronounce that word in your mind and in your body, and how you can bring them as twins together.
Yeah. Nice. Nice that that even goes almost beyond the meaning of a word, because then it comes also to the sound of the word itself. You send me a music piece that goes only about two sounds, boom and tuck, but they use
Mm,
it boom boom tuck tuck boom boom tuck tuck. Sometimes they do boom boom tuck
yes.
tuck tuck boom boom. And so they use only those two sounds, but it's a whole song, and the possibilities is almost endless how you can
Yes.
use that in movement. So that's
Yes.
interesting too.
The and also the terminology
Hmm.
what I use in my lesson, and we have both. When I cannot speak for you, but we use the same terminology, and this helps us to understand
Yeah,
what we mean with it. But still, the execution could be different.
yeah, yeah.
And but somebody who knows not the terminology, then it will be a challenge to get this on one level together.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's where let me just do blatantly do a commercial for the method of gem. You know that the book that Ton has written. One of the beauty things that I think is in there are many, but one of them is actually to make that language consistent. And so there are things that Ton in his book just clarifies words, and sometimes we actually did it even together. We had to come up with completely new words of expressions of things that didn't exist before. So GEM gives us also a language to teach and listen, but Ton, I think you said it correctly. We first need to still use it in a pretty consistent way. So I think a lot of people understand when I say the word pathway, but how we use it in GEM, the word pathway is very specific, and you and I use it, I think, exactly in the same way, because we try to teach it according to that methodology.
So a pathway can only start from a body part when the body part bend, stretch, or rotate.
Hmm.
And it could be also how it starts gradually and end suddenly, or it starts suddenly and it ends gradually. And if you not understand the words then and the terminology, and your choice isn't there, and the teacher has to tell you which choice you have to make in that word, actually you are thinking and train them how you think. And I would say that would be not the proper way. So first I would explain the understanding of the word, how I understand it.
Hmm.
And uh, if they understand the same how I understand it, maybe we come on the same um, level to each other. There is no level, but on the same understanding.
Same understanding. Yeah, I sometimes do, Ton, that I still also use words from that's coming from Laban. If you guys don't know who Laban is, Rudolf Laban was one of the early dance researchers and developers of a method around dance. Find them if you don't know what it is. But I use still words from them. But I always say, let's say, take the word light. Then I say, in the context of the lesson of today, this is what I would like us to understand about light, eh? Lightness. So if you come to another teacher and he gives a different meaning, just doesn't mean that my meaning is wrong or him, but can we agree that in the context of this lesson, or when you teach with me or Ton in this case, this is what we mean with bending and rotating, so. That
I
that
yeah.
helps, I guess. Yeah.
I, I had also one word in the lessons,
Mm-hmm.
in my lesson,
Mm-hmm.
technique.
Mm-hmm.
So the dancers use many times technique.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
I asked to the dancers what you mean with technique.
Mm-hmm.
Straighten my leg, rotate my leg, rotate my foot. Okay. I said to them, I understand technique differently. I understand the 10 body parts what I have in my method. It's the coordination between the movements what are moving from the body parts and the body parts who are active on that place. And it uh, sounds like easy, active on the place and acting moving, but actually they need each other. There are brother and sister, they need each other.
Yeah.
And if you realize that you'll be active with say my hands here, I do an example, they're active still, and I move my head. Yes, now my fingers fast, my head slow, but the rest is on their place. I sit still, my feet on the same place. So this is the coordination of body parts, what are moving and not moving. This is what I understand about technique. And people sometimes give me such a difficult explanation that I not can follow it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. The word technique is probably one of the bigger ones in there too. For me, going a little bit maybe more in my specialism, which is very often around emotional expression, where I get all kind of explanations. And then the other word that I would like to bring in today is also, you did a lot of good work in there, is the word of energy in dance. I mean, can you, I don't, it's a very fake thing. And if you keep things fake in dancing or any teaching, actually you can teach it. You don't know the meaning of it, better you don't use the word, because you can teach it. You cannot just say, give me more energy. So, what do you try to ask of that student? Most people probably kind of know what you mean, but it still could be wrong. When wrong in this case is rightly used.
Yes,
Um,
correct. This happened also with other words like
mm,
energy and power,
power.
energy and force.
Hmm.
And if you not know the difference or you understand it differently, energy and force, and you didn't do a research about it, then we get a different understanding of the movement from it. And the same with feelings, emotions. People mix this word, mix the words. The same with instinct, intuition. And there are many examples where people mix these words.
Yeah,
And very interesting, actually, because when you ask, can you explain me the word? Then first they use the word, but didn't think what is the deeper meaning of that word.
yeah,
Because the words are connected with your movement. And if you understand it differently, the outcome is also differently of the movement.
yeah,
And this happened many times in the lesson. And then they say, Ton, why you want to speak about these words? I want just to dance. But if you just dance and you not understand it, what you are dancing then? What you are changing?
mm. See, that's actually, now you come to maybe the overall, meaning of hopefully this podcast, is because dance in itself could mean so many things.
Hmm.
If someone says, I just want to dance, that probably means completely something different from me than someone who comes in my lesson and just want to learn how to socially do a salsa. So I just want to dance,
Yeah.
just for fun, and there's no care. It's just really enjoying yourself and spending time with. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah.
You and I, as dance as choreographers, trainers, we think about quality of dance and all kind of objective and subjective things in dance, but for a lot of people that might not be true. And if a classical trained ballet boy comes in and says, "Hey, I just want to dance," does he want to have more freedom? Does he want to do the classical ballet? What does he want, right? So the word dance in itself already, there's not one real
Yes.
definition for it.
No. And when you would dance,
Hmm.
um, just from your feelings, because your feelings are the source, and the outcome is the form. It's your
Yeah,
body language, it's your gestures, it's your facial expression, it's everything what moves get a definition. And if you not know that definition by yourself and you just move, then my next question would be from the word, do you have influence on it then?
yeah. Can you influence it or not?
Yeah. And can you manipulate it then?
Yeah,
If you want to manipulate it.
yeah. If you want to manipulate it, can you manipulate, and to what extent?
Yes, that would be my question actually. What do you think about that one, Sean?
No, I think that is. I think that is sometimes. Let me be careful here because we we go on slippery ground sometimes, specifically in the ballroom dance world, when people say, "I think it has to be this way," where you say, "Well, that depends on the choice you make," which you and I, often find out that people think there is one way only, and that would be scary in my mind. But you also take away the choice, and if you take away the choice, you immediately take away the ability to manipulate.
Yes, absolutely. I'm agree. And there, yes, I think it's not slippery, Sean, because
Hmm.
when you understand the words differently
Hmm.
and the receiver understands it also differently, then we have a different of a meaning
Mm.
there.
Yeah, or
But
understanding. Yeah,
our
yeah.
understanding is. And if we would dance and would use these words, I would ignore for myself the words, the subjective words, good, wrong, natural, normal, beautiful, ugly, because these words saying nothing without any context. And I understand in my lesson, this is judgment actually. Yes, all dancers, this is judgment, they use these words, and these are related with their past and their environment, how they learn these words, and how they translate it into movement. And some of them, they are afraid to um, release that, try to understand the words, and good not exist, and you tell always good would be an endpoint. And if you
Yeah,
understand that good would be an endpoint, there is no super good, because good is already the endpoint. Then it would be also not ultra super good, because you try to put something above it. Good is good, and good can be not better.
yeah, yeah. No, I always liked that explanations of the two words good and perfect. Tom got a phone call, which is nice. It's live. We always do our podcast live, by the way. So although we don't, put them out live, but we do them live, and we don't do that. But yeah, I always like that explanation for you. If you use words like good and perfect, so it is perfect, and sometimes we say that in just casual talk. But if you make that a thing of you, when is it good? Then you see there's a clear endpoint, which like I did with that example, is can you make yourself as tall as possible? If this is as tall as possible, my next question could not be answered and make it even taller, and everyone can do that. So they immediately. That's why I often with new groups I always start with this little thing to immediately make them understand why we stay away. Not if we talk normally, of course, but stay away from these subjective words. Um, because it has a teaching. It's not because we want to be very philosophical. It has a teaching idea behind this, these subjective words. Doesn't mean that if we just talk and say, hey, this is this coffee tastes good, that I mean there's no other better coffee. Then we know what I mean with it. That's perfectly fine to say it in that way, you know. um, yeah, I think that is for me still. I noticed specifically with newer dancer an incredibly challenge to do that in the right way, to not over deliver a lot of these ideas that we have about words and language. So how do you see that with newer students? I
Yes, actually, the right way don't exist.
Does not exist.
Not exist. With new
Mm-hmm.
students, I see it like that. Um, I try when they never danced.
Mm-hmm.
There is a different with it. Then I start, of course, first to learn them a few movements, and step by step, I will use also my terminology.
Mm-hmm.
And then step by step, they learn this, and they get free and free and more free in their mind. And if there is understanding, so you start immediately as education from the beginning, immediately how I want it. And how I want it is that you are not stuck in your head, because people are in the beginning afraid, and they say, I don't can dance, I not feel the rhythm, I never will learn that. So they start immediately with they say it's difficult, and I say no, it's a challenge. And when it's a challenge, it sounds more positive already. And when they say, oh, okay, it's difficult, I will never learn that, then you go already with these words in the process that the body will not develop in that one. You can hear it that I use develop and not better or will learn. And of course, you will learn when you learn these words and begin with these new students who never dance. I try to approach it so positive as possible, and that they can grow also. And when they grow and develop, I will also pronounce that and say, oh, well done, you are so growing since the last time you developed. And then I give context, this and this and this and this. And then, because when it no not get context, then they not know where they are growing in. And then you can see that body and mind comes more together, and this is the beauty of it. I think dancers who come and who dance already, that makes it for me more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So I not use the word difficult, I use challenging.
Challenging. Yeah.
Be- be- because they have in their backpack already learned different words, and they connect different thoughts to it.
Yeah.
And mostly it's conservative because they want not to change. And for me, it's challenging to break these patterns in their head and to let them understand what I understand from the words. But mostly is it the perceiving of the ear and the eye what the word means in translating to a movement. And if they have this old picture in it, or the picture, not old, but the past picture in it, then it gets really a big challenge for them to release that.
Yeah.
And mostly it's more about afraid and to be not accepted.
Right. Or yeah, or some sort of a maybe conditioning already from what they have learned before. Because with experienced dancers, they sometimes feel that they already have. Or they might have an understanding that there is only a good and a right way to do things, depending on what culture they come from, what teachers they had. Sometimes it's just a little bit. well, let's put it in this way different. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these use of words as well with new students because they're kind of a blank page. So, we
Mm.
can write on it whatever we want, which gives a big responsibility on us as teachers too,
Absolutely.
right? And the way you and I grew up, and specifically when we started to follow a certain dance education, we both came from the ballroom world. Specifically, we were given one little gray book for the ballroom and one red book for Latin. This is what we had to learn, and this was the only way to do it correctly, right? That's the belief that they tried to put in our head that never worked for me, and neither did it for you, Tom. But that's at least what they say. And when you have to do an exam, they look at, yeah, no, the book says, it needs to be one quarter turn to the right, and otherwise it's not correct. Like, okay,
Yes, but still, you not learn dancing from a book.
no, you
And
can't. You
I
can't.
put this in my first page.
You did,
You
yeah.
you have theory and you have the practical way, and actually to train it into your body.
Mm-hmm.
And when mind and body comes together in the words, then you come on one level actually, and you stay close by yourself. Also, that's also very important. You not if you have a different understanding from one word, I'm very happy if you have that one, and then we can look for balance for it. And once we come to each other and they go to practice,
Mm-hmm.
then both are happy because we speak the same language. And language is built up by sounds. And the sound and the articulation of that one makes your movement. And if you want just like not use words and not use the language, but you use the language as a count, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then I think you take the soul of out of it, of that. And important is because when I have like also words, oye como va la ritmo. If I would have that song, then I would use Oye como va el ritmo. Then that would be very important for me to translate these language sounds into movement. But some people, many, also judgment, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Where is then Oye como va? Because this is such a unique piece of music where the words are in it, the language, the lyrics, and you ignore everything, the sounds, the words, and you just count it. The
Yeah.
soul is out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is
Mm.
of course, I think, use for all of these things. Help people a little bit understand how music works. We often start with the count of rhythms and accents in the music as well. But so there's already a different if you do 1, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2. It's already different when you do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. So I already give a little bit. You can hear it. So other people might not even hear the difference. But I now accentuate constantly only the same two numbers, which very seldomly happens in music. But one person probably told us that a cha cha is always 1, 2, 3, 4, and one. When it's actually 1, 2, 3, and then so whatever that is. And then I always ask students to sing it. But then okay, now we do take a different number, and it gives it slightly different. So there is some use to it, but in most students, most, at least the ones that I came across, have some
Judgment.
fear to. Yeah, that's a judgment. No, it's not a judgment. It's factual. It's the one that I came across. That doesn't mean that
Yes,
every
yes, yes.
student is like that.
Yeah.
Have a fear to do it like if I ask them to do boom chicka boom boom chicka boom boom, whatever they want to sing and hear. In this case, is a samba, as you can hear. Um, they have a little bit afraid to just make sounds of what they hear. If so, if you don't cannot know the words like oye como va, le ritmo, then you could maybe at least do pu- pu- nu- tu- nu- tum- pum- pu- 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 tu. They find that very scary. They
Or
find that very scary.
"Mm, uh, oye,
Yeah.
¿cómo va?
Mm,
Tararira,
da-
tarita,
tu- pa- tu- tu-
paratarata."
tu.
So then you
Yeah.
have not the words,
Yeah.
but then you put the
Yeah.
vocal percussion into it.
Yeah. You could.
Um, yes.
Yeah.
What I think, Sean, and this is a
Hmm.
question to you.
Hmm.
Would it be helpful for people who not dance
Hmm.
and just start with their school and they learn these new words, these small children, these young children, connected with movement
Oh yeah.
directly and
Oh
not
yeah.
learning that they are sitting still on a chair and learn these words?
Oh yeah, no, no, and no, absolutely. I even think that in a traditional studio where I often give a lesson as return of just using the studio for my students, I also give classes, right? I do a cha-cha class or a salsa class or whatever that is, and the studio made a choice to teach that relatively traditional. We punched, we pushed against the boundaries, but it often goes like this, right? It often goes like we teach them basic steps, and then we say, let's try this on music. So that's often how it goes. Now, the more experienced teachers, they don't do that. They at least say, here, let me let you listen to a few salsa songs. What is it that you hear? Can you do that with your hands? Can you do that maybe with your body? Whatever it is. And then already you see, but is this correct? I don't care, do whatever you do. There is no right or wrong because I cannot know what you hear. You know what you hear, right? And that's the difference. We cannot, no matter how well teachers we are, we can never say this is what you hear and feel. But you can't. That's always a personal interpretation. Because you can help maybe saying, hey, do you also hear the bongas? Do you hear the difference between the claves? You can ask them if they hear, but if they don't hear it, no, you have to hear it. You have to hear that the accent is on this. Your sound, Tom, you're on mute.
Uh,
Yeah.
sorry, Sean. When we go back to the school,
Yeah.
these words is not even important for your dancing, but also for sports,
Oh
for your
yeah.
daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And if I learn the picture hammer
Mm-hmm.
and I see it, but I never had a hammer in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the function is of it. Yes, but when I know what the function is, then I will remember more quickly. And if I would take more awareness in it, how you hit it and how you bend it and which body parts you use for it, you get more connected with your, how I would say, with your body. And then I have the word hammer. Well, you start gradually or sudden, or you start sudden and gradually. But mostly, I would try to start more sudden and hit it also sudden.
Yeah.
And mostly, it's a slight gradually and sudden is the hit. Then, if you would understand the words, and then you would also understand which body part you use, and I would do like play basketball or football, and you would exactly do the same, then you also not be only physical there, but also with your awareness, with your
That is that
conscious.
is that is correct. So that's where I think words can help. Explanation of word, finding the same definition doesn't always mean that my definition is correct. But if we have the same definition, then at least we have the same understanding. By the way, when
Mhm.
you said hammer, is a really nice way also to explain at least two terms in the word energy, so that people can actually hear that we use actual words. It's not just a random discussion. So a hammer in itself has, first of all, a potential energy. That's the energy that is in the hammer because of the weight of the hammer and the power that you maybe have in your hands. But once it's not moving, it's still potential energy. once I move it and I hit something, it becomes what we call kinetic energy. That's the energy that is released through it. Now, depending on how much power. So that's already two terms how you can help someone to understand that you cannot just say use more or less energy, because in a
Mm.
sense that doesn't mean a
No.
lot. People don't know what you do. Give it a little bit more context. It becomes a little bit more alive by saying, so can you maybe show that you have a lot of potential energy? So you can see that I have a lot of, I don't move yet, but you probably already get a little bit of a sense, oh, he's building up something. And then
But I go back.
Mhm.
Kinetic is, what is that, Sean?
Kinetic is when you actually release and make the movement. That is the
Movement. Yes. So if you want to release and you
Mhm.
want to hit the hammer,
Mhm.
can you imagine? You are already bent. You have it with your body part, hands, fingers,
Mhm.
and arm,
Yeah,
and the underarm would be swing or release or get bigger and hit or goes immediately. So it has also different pathways. And you
definitely.
would also maybe turn your body or look to it or turn your head. So can you imagine how many um, choices you could make if you would be aware of that one? And then you could change that. So you could manipulate that. And then I come back to the hammer. The potential energy gets kinetic energy. So
Yes.
movement,
Yes.
yes. I would say the energy will transform in a certain power, and a certain power, when they hit the point, will change the form.
It could change the form. Yeah. It
Could
does have.
change the form.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, could change. When you hit the nail, and it would be a nail or a stone, and you would
Yeah.
um, hit it, then the stone could be broken, or the nail go deeper in the when it would be wood, or the earth would go into the earth or into the wood. So actually, with your kinetic energy, you change, because that would be the potential energy would be the origin, the say the how you say, the beginning, and the end would be the change of form.
Yes. Yeah. That's, I mean, yeah, and I was triggered by this word energy, because one of my couples asked me right before they were dancing for them a major championship. And can you give it? I said, well, let's first, and they were sitting next to each other, and I just said, why don't you and the lady dancer, let's call her Jane, and let's call the man Tarzan, just for fun and giggles, is I said, Jane, why don't you give me your definition of energy? And there was, of course, Ton, you expected already that there was a lot of words. And I think it's feel, and I think it's doing, and I think so. There was a lot of things, and maybe it's all correct. Who knows, right? And then the Tarzan already started with, yeah, kind of agree. And then, but if someone says
Mm.
kind of agree, that typically means they don't agree, and came up with the whole entire definition. So I said, you guys dancing now maybe 5 6 years together, you have been talking about energy for those 4 5 6 years, and you never checked with each other what is your definition of energy and your definition. You definitely don't have to take Tons and my definition of energy, but at least level set your own definition so that you can communicate around the same thing. That was already an aha. Words in dance, right? So it is now. And Ton, thank you for your explanation that I brought in. Potential and kinetic energy is just our explanation of one part of energy. I used actually just to give a little bit of teaching in this podcast too, to not make it for all about how to use physics, right? The physics of movement. I said, okay, there is an intensity of movement. There you can talk about energy. We can talk about emotional energy, which is a whole different thing, but we often think that's the same thing. We can think about give it focus and attention, which is some sort of an energy, right? And there is definitely different energies in musicalities. And then last but not least, very often used, if people say he has a lot of energy, they probably mean has a lot of stamina, right? He has a lot of that too.
Mm.
So to give them a little bit in layman terms, that too. Um, so that's what I heard from them. I said, okay, those are the four
Yeah.
or five things that they actually want to talk about.
Yes. And one question also for me, because I
Mm-hmm.
wrote it, and we learn words
Mm-hmm.
during our life when we are born till that we die.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not so study so much, you learn about 27,000 words.
Probably.
If you study more and you have more these expensive words and more words, you have almost double of the words, about 50,000, 48, 52. And there is a difference in understanding. This is why we have lawyers, doctors, we have people who work in the computer business in the digital world. They use also different terminologies, and then you get also different understanding. Then we learn this. Can you imagine these 27,000 words or 50,000 words? How many words you know really? Because I use the words energy, power, space, time, technique, feelings, emotion, and still I didn't know really what they meant.
No.
And then I did a research to it, and some doors going open and think, why I didn't know this earlier. And I would say, when I would give some advice, teachers, parents, doesn't matter, when you try to speak about your words one time when it's out of your mouth, then it's out of it. And if you use these words, do you really know what this word means and how they are connected with your movement?
Yeah.
That would be my question, actually. Mhm.
Yeah. Mm, I don't think there is a
Or,
is a
or advice. I said advice. But if you want to develop that one, Sean, and say, I have not enough treasures, words. I don't know how you call that. That you learn words, 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 and how you call that in English?
I don't know what to say it in Dutch. So
Woordenschat.
yeah,
Woordenschat. Correct.
vocabulary. You,
Yes. Yes. Um, would it be two
vocabulary.
questions? Learn more words and learn um, what the word meant really. Would that be an advice, Sean?
Well, I think it goes in two directions. I think a good understanding of the meaning of the word is, I think, extremely important, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also think that next level would be the nuance between two words, right? That would also, if you don't know, because then you can express yourself better. So let me give you an example about feeling, right? Some people have only two words for feeling. I feel really good or I feel bad, you know, but you could feel sad, you could feel happy, could feel joy. And this is a question that I often ask. Can you explain me the difference between happy and joy? For a lot of people, there's like, no. And it's really good to get nuances of words, and that is a more natural growth of vocabulary than just throwing in more words without actually truly knowing the meaning of it. So don't know if that helps, but it does. And so now you and I both express ourselves in a language that's not our own. Now I live already for a long time in the United States, and I was educated for most part in English too, so that helps a lot. But most people who second language, in this case English, is not their first language, they get stuck around 20, 30,000 words maximum, right? Where a native educated person can go even up to 50 to 100,000 words. So we will always be behind that, no matter how many, if you look around me, no matter how books I read. I tested myself on vocabulary, but it has nothing to do with the amount of words, actually.
Yes, I some
Yeah.
idea also, Sean, because my English is not so developed like my Dutch,
Hmm.
because my Dutch is my mother language, so
Hmm.
I know the language, and I'm still learning Dutch too. But my English is not on the same level,
Yeah, it's
and
impossible. Hmm.
no, it's impossible. So actually, it takes a lifetime to improve that.
Yeah, definitely.
So it takes also a lifetime to improve your body awareness, how to connect this with these words.
Yep. No, definitely, definitely. And then at least for a big part, if it comes to official languages like English and Dutch and stuff like that, we can go. But if you and you did that more than I did, you make a study of dance, and if it comes then to the words used in dance, then there is no really that you could say, hey, this is the language of dance. First of all, it's taught in different languages, right? And then we use sometimes the same word for a different thing. Then we use multiple words for the same thing, and you can go on and on, and then not even talk about the nuances. And I think your book again, Gem, and that's not why we had this podcast, but it actually fits perfectly, is at least doing an attempt to create a good list of words that we can use when we teach and learn, and be consistent across the and in the translation, which I had the honor to help you with that. To go from Dutch, you wrote a book in Dutch to translate it into English, and we had many discussions with dancers and dance educators and even just teachers to say, okay, this is the word we mean. Can you find the same word? A really good example is the word shape,
Yes,
right? Just
shape
so
and form and
shape and
design.
form and design. So we went from one language, Dutch, to that word form in the Netherlands. It sounds the same, but you cannot just take the same word, because most people that we came across would say shape when we use the word form in Dutch.
Yes,
Um,
yes, that's a super example, Sean.
mhm.
And I use the word form in my method because it comes from the word Latin,
Yeah, forma.
forma, figura, and mainly in the Europe countries they use these words. Also, even in the Russian language.
Yep. Yeah.
And if I go back to form, they think mostly it's a paper in formula in the English language. But
Yep.
actually, I don't know if the listeners know that, because form is three-dimensional and shape is two-dimensional in the art world. And if you know that, then the decision to take form or shape, that's a question then in your terminology when you teach, if you use the one or the other one. And design, yes, that's also, if you use design, all words are have an evolution. And when you look to the evolution, when we were 100 years ago, design didn't exist, because design is a later word. And then we would also dance differently, because we had a different, not a different language, but the evaluation of the language goes also with the movement, not only the language but also the movement. And when we would speak like 100 year ago, then we would look a little bit strange to each other, think, okay, how they talk with each other, because now we speak differently. Hey guy, how are you, or hi, or hello. That's my Siri. Yes, that's quite funny, Sean.
Yeah.
If we would dance like 100 year ago, then we would have also the language like 100 year ago. And
Probably.
now the, the language is it's developing, and the movement are developing.
Yeah, dance has, of course, developed even within our lifetime. It developed a lot, and obviously, at least that is at least obvious for us, we need to develop the words that we use in the teaching and learning of dance alongside with it. It cannot be the same where we are decided right now if we have to rewrite gem the book gem in 10 years, 20, 30 years from now. I'm sure there will be more and different words in there again, because
Absolutely.
and I hope, because we can influence society, but society influences us too, and both needs to happen.
Yes.
We cannot force our own thing. It needs to go hand in hand. That's the beauty of art. It's on one hand a reflection, but sometimes it also pulls the society in a certain way. We had a nice podcast around some of these topics, by the way, with an artist. Um, just the other day, and this would be definitely one of the topics we could talk with him about that. So we talked about words. We need to come to a closing of this podcast today. It's not. I thought it was a really interesting discussion, Tom, that you and I had. There's some new discoveries, but a couple of learnings that we need to have from it. Can you use your word consistency? Do you have the same definition? Don't forget that there is nuances between different words with almost the same meaning. Think about happy and joy. And then, of course, there is what Ton did so nicely. There's a lot about the intonation that you use when you teach as well. Stand up, stand up. That
Hmm.
could automatically give a different movement. And we say on purposely different and not good or bad. Right? So that's the interpretation of the other one. So did you had some conclusions of our talk today, Tom?
Yes, absolutely. Um, I I can just speak for myself. I want to develop also more, try to discover more words,
Hmm.
try to connect them with movement, and this keeps me actually more ahead of the other ones,
Yeah,
the dancers. And and the language is not like fixed. It could be not. That it is liveful and joyful, and also the movement the same. And this is now judgment. This is also a conclusion. I can see how many colleagues of teachers uh, could more improve their words and the connecting with the movements. And they do that, but I would see it even more deeper and more wider.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, people, that was our episode of today. With that, we are going to say goodbye, Tom, to the audience, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Find us back with another episode of Dance Gems. This was, of course, Ton Greten and Sean Dorf with the Dance of Words: How Language Shapes Our Understanding and Experience of Dance. I'll say goodbye. Ton, I already
Bye
push you
bye.
out of it, but we both say bye bye.
Bye bye.